Now, Chrystia Freeland and Justin Trudeau would want you to believe that Canadians have never had it so good. The RCMP don't exactly agree. A secret report was published within the RCMP stating that Canadians would likely revolt if they understood how broke we actually are. I can't believe this is something that I'm reporting on today, but the National Post published this last night saying secret RCMP report warns that Canadians may revolt once they realize how broke they actually are. Right from the get-go, the report authors warn that whatever Canada's current situation, it probably deteriorates further within the next 5 years. Of course, this is mind-blowing that this is actually the sentiment of the RCMP once the veil is revealed. Now, this was a secret report that was published by the RCMP to circulate, obviously, internally so that the rest of the RCMP would understand the situation in Canada. But obviously, they didn't want the public to know this. This had to be pulled out with a Freedom of Information Act request at the behest of a reporter. Now, let's get into this. The secret RCMP report is warning that the federal government of Canada may descend into civil unrest once citizens realize the hopelessness of their economic situation. We've all heard reports. We see TikTok videos all the time of people complaining about just the absolute living standard here in Canada. I've shared several over the last months and weeks. It's really getting crazy. I mean, the price of everything has just gone through the roof. The unaffordability of housing, it's crazy, as well as, well, the government exacerbating the situation by just bringing more and more people into the country. The incoming period, or the coming period of recession, will accelerate the decline in living standards that the younger generations have already witnessed compared to earlier generations, reads the report entitled Whole of Government 5-Year Trends for Canada. For all those boomers out there that are upset when the younger generations say that the boomers had it a lot easier than we've got it right now, well, this kind of vindicates those people. Now, no offense to boomers out there, you just timed the market with your being born at the right time. I mean, just take it for what it is. It was pretty good for you, but it's really gone to hell in a handbasket really quickly. For example, many Canadians under 35 are unlikely to be able to buy a place to live, it adds. The report, labeled secret, is intended as a piece of special operations information to be distributed only within the RCMP among decision makers in the federal government. This is not meant to be for the public, just to know how concerned they are. A heavily redacted version was made public as a result of an access to information request filed by Matt Malone, an assistant professor of law at British Columbia's Thompson Rivers University, and an expert in government secrecy. Describing itself in an introduction as a scanning exercise, the report is intended to highlight trends in both Canada and abroad that could have a significant effect on the Canadian government and the RCMP. Right from the get-go, in the report, authors warn that whatever Canada's current situation, it will probably deteriorate further in the next 5 years. Now, this is really interesting to hear, because it was just yesterday I was reporting on this, how the mainstream media has gone completely insane. That clip to come. But Pierre Poilievre calls for a carbon tax election. Now, this pundit jumped right into saying that it's destructive, it's dangerous to have this kind of rhetoric, to just clearly state what the RCMP are actually saying in this report.
You know, this isn't bad unexpected. This is kind of in keeping with the tactics that we've seen from Pierre Poilievre. But if you saw his speech, which we were televising a few minutes ago, I would just say that it represents a real shift in rhetoric, a real intensification in rhetoric from Pierre Poilievre. He literally described Canada today as, quote unquote, a hell we could not have imagined 8 years ago. He chided the national media for, underestimating how bad it would get here in Canada.
Well, okay, so the RCMP is also saying just how bad it will get in Canada, and not only that, the CTV is even reporting that Canada slipped to 15th place in annual World Happiness Report. Now, we talked about this in today's podcast earlier with Marty. If you haven't seen that, I'll leave a card up in the corner right there where you can go tune into that. It's about an hour of Marty and I talking about what's happening in Canada, and this is one of the things that came up, is that on a real scale, Canadians are less and less happier every year, and it's reflective of where we are economically, largely, where people can't afford things. And not only that, our freedoms have been taken away, dwindled to nearly nothing, and that affects a large amount of economic freedom in Canada. You can barely open up a business these days, let alone buy yourself a home. But let's let this guy continue. Where's his conclusion in this?
Suggesting that their warnings as an opposition party about how bleak things would become under Trudeau were being dismissed, and that now he's been proven correct. This is a Trump-style brand of rhetoric.
Right.
This is the American carnage speech that we saw from Trump when he took his inaugural address. And
American carnage speech. That's where you're going with it. How about he's telling the truth? He's telling the truth about the situation, how it's become quite dire, and without making drastic steps to remedy the situation, we're just going to dig ourselves deeper and deeper into this hole. It really, really is like that. And this is why he's brought up the case of the calling a non-confidence vote because of this carbon tax. The carbon tax is coming in April 1st is going to make things even more unaffordable for Canadians.
Is not worth the cost, with the parliamentary budget officer testifying again that the majority of households will see a negative impact as a result of the carbon tax. End quote. Now he wants to hike the tax on April Fool's Day. We won't stand for it. So what will it be with this Prime Minister? Will he spike the hike, or will he face a non-confidence vote at a carbon tax election?
Parliamentary budget officer's report lays out clearly that 8 out of 10 Canadian families across the country where the price on pollution applies get more money back.
I'm going to read again the testimony from the March 18th.
Yeah, I don't have to continue playing this. What Trudeau said right there was absolutely false. The report clearly states that just on the level, what you pay in carbon taxes out of pocket is going to be less than what you get back in this stupid rebate. And this is where we're at. This is where we're at with it. And not to mention the snowball effect that this carbon tax is going to bring to raising prices across the board. Anything that the carbon tax is going to be put on any product. So say it goes on a truck and it has to drive somewhere, the carbon tax is added to that. Say someone needs to use energy in order to produce the product. Can you tell me a single product out there that doesn't use energy to produce? It's just insane. It really is insane. This is where we're going. Now, Jordan Peterson chimed in on this article saying, we did it, successful degrowth. We're a little slow on the environmental improvement front, but at least people are miserable and poorer than they think. Sincerely, Justin Trudeau and Satan. Of course, wow, the hyperbole out of that camp going really off the chains, but this is a reality of the situation. Now, back to that article. In addition to worsening living standards, the RCMP also warns of a future increasingly defined by unpredictable weather and seasonal catastrophes such as wildfires and flooding. They're buying into this whole thing that this is what's going to happen, as if the all those wildfires last year, a majority of them weren't due to arson. You just got to look at that situation. Let's look at it in a realistic way. If the oceans were rising, they wouldn't be giving out mortgages for properties on the waterfront. Let's just say that. But this is a thing that they're actually concerned about. They think that this is a thing that's going to happen. Another major theme of the report is that Canadians are set to become increasingly disillusioned with the government, which authors mostly chalk up to misinformation, conspiracy theories, and paranoia. Is this misinformation, conspiracy, and paranoia when the RCMP are actually out there saying that they're worried about this stuff? Law enforcement should expect continual social and political polarization fueled by misinformation campaigns and increasing mistrust for all democratic institutions, reads the report, overreaching considerations. Now, a lot of the misinformation is coming from the mainstream media or even from our own government themselves. This is Chrystia Freeland with a whole whack of misinformation right here.
Poverty in Canada was at 14.5% when the Conservatives left office. Today, it's down to 7.4%. We know there's a lot more work to do. That is why we are pointing out to Canadians that all the Conservatives want is to cut.
Yeah, we need to cut government expenditures. That's absolutely right. How about we cut all those people that are making billions of dollars or tens and hundreds of millions of dollars embezzling out of the government contracts that we've been seeing recently. Yeah, we should cut a lot of that stuff. But this is Government.exe on Twitter saying, moments after Chrystia Freeland spoke about Canada's strong economy and reduced poverty, a Liberal MP said taxpayer-funded menstrual products should be made available at food banks due to rapidly rising living costs. These fools can't even keep their own lies straight. It's crazy. Now, this, of course, is Chrystia Freeland, the finance minister and deputy prime minister, who wrote this book, Plutocrats, The Rise of the New Global Super Rich and the Fall of Everyone Else. This was the working cover page of it. Somebody else on Twitter made a better working title page for it. Yes, of course, Plutocrats, The Rise of the Super Rich and the Fall of Everyone Else. But I'd love to hear what you guys have to say on this. It is just absolutely insane that when the RCMP say the quiet part out loud, even though they're writing this in secret, this is something that was published and then made available through the Freedom of Information Act requests. Maybe they won't make that available anymore, but I'd love to hear what you have to say about this. Leave a comment in the comments section down below. And as always, of course, keep on trucking.